Blueface, Jaidyn Alexis, and Chrisean Rock have once again pulled the internet back into their never-ending drama. Their relationship saga has always been messy, unpredictable, and impossible to ignore, but since Blueface walked free from prison a few months ago, the chaos has reached an entirely new level. What once felt like a complicated love triangle has now turned into a non-stop spectacle, with fresh controversies popping up almost weekly. This time, the spark came from Jaidyn herself. She took aim at one of Blueface's most talked-about features, his face tattoo of Chrisean Rock, flat out saying it makes him look unattractive. On the surface, it sounds like a blunt insult. But when you zoom out and look at Jaidyn's own involvement with Blueface since his release, the situation starts to feel far more layered than a simple comment about appearance. Naturally, fans are asking the real questions: what's actually happening behind closed doors? And how is Chrisean reacting to seeing her name, and her face, dragged into the middle of yet another public clash? One thing is certain: Blueface and the mothers of his children are back online doing exactly what they've always done, fueling drama and keeping social media locked in. Just when things seemed like they might finally settle down, Jaidyn dropped a single remark that reignited the fire and sent the internet straight into argument mode. She didn't soften her words either. Jaidyn openly labeled Blueface ugly and strange, making it clear that his face tattoos, especially the one honoring Chrisean, only made things worse. And it's hard to miss the underlying tension there. A tattoo of another woman's face permanently etched onto his skin isn't just ink, it's a reminder, and clearly, it hit a nerve. What makes everything even more complicated is the long, tangled history behind all three of them. Both Jaidyn and Chrisean were present in Blueface's life after his release, but friendship has never existed between the two women. Even during moments of silence, there's always been an unspoken competition simmering beneath the surface. That tension comes from years of Blueface moving back and forth between them, never fully choosing one without reopening wounds with the other. Jaidyn, after all, was there before everything else. She was Blueface's high school sweetheart, the person who knew him before the fame, the money, and the constant public scrutiny. Their relationship started young and intense, fueled by emotion rather than maturity. It was the kind of love that feels overwhelming because neither person has learned how to love peacefully yet. From the outside, it looked thrilling: big gestures, public affection, and moments fans replayed endlessly online. But behind the scenes, stability was always missing. They loved loudly, argued just as loudly, and fell into a pattern that became impossible to ignore. Breakups happened often, reunions felt inevitable, and every separation left people waiting for the next comeback. That constant cycle kept fans emotionally hooked, because their story never felt finished, only paused, like a chapter that refused to close no matter how many times it ended. As the years dragged on, the fractures in their relationship stopped being subtle. Suspicion lingered constantly, and wherever Blueface went, rumors followed close behind. By around 2020, things reportedly hit a point of no return when Jaidyn allegedly discovered he had been unfaithful. What happened next wasn't a quiet breakup tucked away from the public, it was loud, emotional, and destructive. Tempers flared, emotions spilled over, and reports claimed Jaidyn lashed out by damaging his car in a moment of rage. That incident became a turning point, a clear sign that whatever they once had was beyond repair. Years of mistrust, unresolved hurt, and repeated betrayals finally crushed any hope of rebuilding what was left. Soon after, the spotlight shifted in a dramatic way. Blueface's relationship with Chrisean Rock moved front and center, and the chaos escalated fast. Unlike Jaidyn, who shared a private history with him before fame, Chrisean's relationship unfolded almost entirely under public scrutiny. From the start, their bond was intense and unstable, fueled by raw emotion and constant unpredictability. Their arguments weren't just disagreements, they became viral moments. Every breakup, every reunion, every emotional exchange turned into content for the internet to dissect. Fans didn't just observe, they chose sides, analyzed expressions, and debated devotion, even as the relationship grew increasingly volatile. When Chrisean became pregnant, the situation only grew more complicated. Instead of grounding the relationship, the pregnancy amplified the tension. Social media flooded with questions about accountability, readiness, and whether either of them was equipped for parenthood. Encouragement and criticism collided online, creating a loud mix of concern and judgment. Even during moments that should have symbolized joy or growth, instability hovered in the background. Nothing ever felt settled. After the birth of Chrisean Jr., things took another sharp turn. Blueface landed back in jail following a probation violation, once again removing himself from daily involvement. Despite the distance and the repeated breakdowns in their relationship, Chrisean appeared to emotionally double down. She made headlines after getting a large tattoo of Blueface's face, despite having previously removed a tattoo of his name. The decision shocked many people. To critics, it felt like regression, especially given her new role as a mother. Some argued that she seemed emotionally anchored to a toxic cycle instead of focusing on stability for herself and her child. That tattoo quickly became symbolic. Supporters viewed it as proof of loyalty and deep emotional attachment. Others saw it as a warning sign, an example of devotion crossing into self-erasure. Questions surfaced about why someone would permanently mark themselves for a partner who had been inconsistent, absent, and repeatedly entangled in controversy. At that point, the conversation moved beyond romance and into patterns, whether chaos had become so normalized that warning signs no longer felt alarming. When Blueface was eventually released, many hoped the story might shift. Maybe there would be growth, space, or new boundaries. Those hopes didn't last long. Within a day of his release, the familiar cycle restarted. Chrisian was right back beside him, and the reunion felt less surprising and more inevitable. Shortly after, what appeared to be a casual family outing, a trip to an arcade, made its way online. Blueface brought children he shares with both Jaidyn Alexis and Chrisian, and on the surface, it looked like an effort at peaceful co-parenting. But given their history, nothing felt that simple. Viewers watched closely, dissecting every interaction, every smile, every awkward pause. Was this genuine maturity, or just another example of blurred emotional boundaries? Were the kids truly the focus, or was this another way to keep old attachments alive? The situation sparked deeper concerns about emotional growth, and about how constant instability might affect the children caught in the middle. Jaidyn's presence, even from the sidelines, added yet another layer. She wasn't just a past partner, she was the mother of Blueface's children and a living reminder of a chapter that never fully closed. Her long history with him complicated everything, especially since many once believed she was the person he would ultimately end up with. Even after everything that happened, comparisons between the two women persisted, turning deeply personal struggles into public conversation and debate. What made this saga so impossible to look away from wasn't just the chaos, it was the cycle. The same storyline kept replaying on a loop: explosive arguments, dramatic fallouts, emotional declarations, reconciliations, and then right back to conflict again. Every time, it felt like maybe this would be the turning point, the moment where lessons stuck and behavior shifted. But it never lasted. Viewers weren't tuning in just for entertainment, they were watching because nothing ever felt finished. It was like watching people trapped in a pattern they recognized but couldn't escape. At a deeper level, this story was never only about romance. It became a case study in how fame magnifies dysfunction, how unresolved trauma gets performed instead of processed, and how love can become harmful once boundaries dissolve completely. Jaidyn Alexis, Chrisian Rock, and Blueface weren't just connected emotionally, they were bound together by history, shared children, and decisions that kept resurfacing no matter how much time passed. The consequences of those choices didn't fade, they echoed. That's why the arcade outing carried so much weight. On the surface, it looked like togetherness, co-parenting, maybe even progress. Underneath, it was loaded with years of instability, emotional damage, and unresolved tension. Whether it represented growth or just another repeat depended entirely on what followed. And based on past behavior, peace was always fragile, while chaos was never far away. Once the videos hit social media, any illusion of calm disappeared almost instantly. What could have been brushed off as a harmless family moment exploded into a full-scale online war. Opinions flooded in from every direction, emotions flared, and the situation spiraled exactly the way longtime watchers expected it to. Jaidyn, already firm about boundaries when it came to her children, reacted immediately. She went straight online, publicly confronting Chrisian and making it unmistakably clear that she didn't want her kids around her at all. For Jaidyn, this wasn't about attention, it was about motherhood, protection, and control. Her response was swift and decisive. Within hours, she didn't just speak out, she showed up. Jaidyn physically went to retrieve her children, sending a loud, unmistakable message that she was uncomfortable and unwilling to let the situation continue. What could have been handled privately turned into yet another viral flashpoint, another moment dissected and replayed endlessly across social media feeds. As always, the drama refused to stay limited to just the three of them. In this circle, chaos spreads fast. Blueface's mother, Carlisa Saffold, stepped into the situation without hesitation, and with zero restraint. From her point of view, Chrisian was the clear problem. She accused her of hijacking what was supposed to be a family outing and turning it into content. According to Carlisa, Chrisian wasn't invited at all. She claimed Chrisian showed up unannounced, phone recording, creating tension where there didn't need to be any. To her, it wasn't just messy, it was disrespectful and deliberate. Once those accusations went public, the internet did what it always does: split into sides, slowed down clips, analyzed expressions, and argued endlessly over who was telling the truth. Meanwhile, Blueface made sure the fire stayed lit. Fresh out of prison and clearly holding on to resentment, he took to social media in a way that felt intentionally provocative. Instead of calming the situation, he escalated it. He publicly dismissed both of his baby mamas as mid, reducing years of emotional complexity to shallow insults. He joked about wanting to get a bad woman pregnant next, comments that felt designed to humiliate. Then came the strange metaphors, comparing himself to 101 Dalmatians and saying he needed a golden retriever, reducing women to objects or pets. The tone was mocking, dismissive, and revealing. To many viewers, it looked like a man trying to regain control by demeaning the women connected to him and turning real pain into jokes. He went even further, accusing both women of failing to hold him down while he was incarcerated. The claim reopened old wounds instantly. His words carried an unmistakable sense of entitlement, as if loyalty was something he was owed regardless of how turbulent the relationships had been. People immediately questioned what holding him down even meant: emotional support, money, silence, public loyalty? Whatever his definition, it was clear that resentment had been simmering, and now it was spilling out publicly. The tension escalated again when Chrisean fired back, this time targeting Jaidyn directly. She alleged that right after Blueface's release, Jaidyn had been begging him for money. It was a heavy accusation, one that painted Jaidyn as dependent and opportunistic. But Jaidyn shut that narrative down fast. She responded with a detailed rebuttal, refusing to let her name be dragged unchecked. She posted receipts, actual proof, showing that she had financially supported Blueface while he was incarcerated. For her, it wasn't just about winning an argument. It was about reclaiming the truth and making sure her sacrifices weren't erased or rewritten to fit someone else's version of events. By that point, the pattern was undeniable. Every attempt at calm became another trigger. Every public moment turned into another battleground. And once again, the internet stayed glued, not because it was shocking anymore, but because the cycle still hadn't broken. Then Blueface jumped right back into the chaos, once again flipping the narrative. He claimed that before going to jail, he handed Jaidyn $90,000 and accused her of burning through it recklessly. Beneath that accusation was a clear implication: any financial support she said she gave didn't count, because in his mind, she had already been provided for. But Jaidyn wasn't backing down. She fired back with her own receipts, posting proof of payments she had sent him and directly disputing his claims. At that point, the drama morphed into a public audit, with money weaponized and screenshots flying. Every post added confusion, blurring the line between fact, pride, and retaliation, until the truth felt buried under layers of ego and resentment. And yet, through all the insults, accusations, and financial finger-pointing, one question lingered quietly but persistently: where does that ugly comment actually fit in? Why, after everything, does the connection between Blueface and Chrisean Rock refuse to fully snap? That's where the story gets even messier. No matter how public the disrespect becomes or how loud the arguments grow, Blueface continues to keep Chrisean close. They're repeatedly seen together, reigniting speculation that their bond runs deeper than the chaos suggests. And looming over it all is that face tattoo, permanent, unavoidable, and symbolic. It's not just ink, it's a constant reminder that walking away isn't as simple as people like to pretend. One moment, in particular, pulled the curtain back. Blueface outright asked Jaidyn Alexis if she wanted him back. That single question said more than any insult ever could. Despite all his dismissive behavior, he was still seeking validation from her. Jaidyn's answer was immediate and unapologetic: no. Not softened, not uncertain, just no. She explained that she didn't want him as he is right now. And that statement carried weight. It wasn't cruelty, it was clarity. She wasn't rejecting him out of spite, she was rejecting the dysfunction, the instability, and the emotional exhaustion tied to who he's become. That's what makes this situation so uncomfortable to watch. It isn't just celebrity mess or viral drama, it's unresolved trauma, power struggles, and emotional dependency unfolding in real time. Every post is layered with hurt that never truly gets addressed. Instead of healing, the cycle keeps spinning: reaction, retaliation, receipts, half-reconciliations, and then another explosion. Social media doesn't just document the chaos, it fuels it, rewarding escalation instead of resolution. At the center is Blueface, constantly pushing people away while pulling them back in, demanding loyalty while undermining it. Chrisean, despite relentless criticism, remains emotionally tied, unable, or unwilling, to fully detach. Jaidyn, by contrast, looks like someone standing at a crossroads, tired, guarded, and choosing distance even when provoked. Around them swirl family members, fans, and critics, adding noise where peace is already scarce. What began as a simple outing ended as another reminder of just how fragile these relationships are. It exposed how easily boundaries collapse, how resentment festers, and how difficult it is to escape cycles built on chaos and dependency. That ugly comment wasn't random, it was loaded. It was the emotional residue of years of unresolved tension, finally surfacing in a single remark played out before millions, with no clean ending in sight. And that's where things really get interesting. Jaidyn calling Blueface ugly doesn't feel casual, it feels personal. Like frustration, jealousy, disappointment, and unresolved emotion wrapped into one sentence. And let's be real, if that face tattoo were of Jaidyn instead of Chrisian, would she be saying the same thing? That's the question fans are arguing about right now. So what do you think? Is Jaidyn's comment rooted in seeing Chrisian still lingering, and that tattoo still untouched? Or is this just another turn in a love triangle that survives on chaos? Drop your thoughts below and let us know whose side you're on.